I want to talk about different laws, one for residential, commercial properties, which are really different. Let me give you some examples. Independent age, residential, 1 to 4 unit development, considered residential housing. The value of the property will appraise. We look at recent sale in that area of the property for their value. So if you want to get a DSCR of property, rental income, not always work for DSCR law. Why? Because if you look like say single family home, $1 million. Can only get for that every month for rent. DSCR rent below 1%. Rental income less than your mortgage payment. Principal interest tax is a rate more than a rental in the rent pay. Now, special percent last 3 years, about double in some markets. Maybe probably double back last 3 years. No more harm. DSL wage number 1 been about 2 hours. Commercial property. 5 unit considered commercial property. Different calculation rule. Single bed. Like single bed. Rental income. And what they expect, basic pay. At the cap rate. Cap rate means what? At the value. Different city market. Determine the bad city. New York, LA, Miami. Low cap rate can be like 3%. Small but with the midway, 8%, 12%. Low income area, cap rate, more the value for the property side. You have to know the cap rate. Okay, what's the cap rate right now? Get it for your calculation. Now, look at income bad. Then determine cap rate. The value of the profitable land is rely on single family home. 2 members don't work. But the more restricts commercial property. You will look at your meter and other things. They will look at also. I may not be my income. More hard to qualify for commercial single family more and also interest rate different. Why? Not sure why. So if you apply for example, for 1 to 4 unit, could qualify by 50% interest rate. Or depends on your single. Could your qualification commercial well 8%, and then you would think commercial bad for income. Shoot, internet commercial that more risk and life that balance makes that urban other good which love makes you basic unit considered commercial point of ink after all expense will be for that employed every month. But like 1.8% interest. In the name, try to lie, shop, all the same, like small how to do new event, understand the difference between residential, the thing like drop that property, residential property, single family, got low 6% interest rate, but private one $1,000 every month. Property balance, only certain amount for rental income by market space, which matters about every month, around 8%, 4,000 every month. Not always about interest rate. Makes sense, finished. Paying difference between commercial law